continuing our workshop from earlier this afternoon. Uh, And this was the final workshop topic was on the continued school reopening. And we got through the presentation, and now it's time for school board questions or comments. So we'll give everybody a moment to refamiliarize themselves. And we have in the queue, we have Mrs. Anderson and Mrs. Weems where we left things off in the queue. So Mrs. Anderson, if you would proceed, please.
So in regards to Virtual Virginia and regular school, my question is it possible for some students to do some classes through Virtual Virginia and some classes in person? Are they allowed to do both?
So we've not made that determination just yet, but in some instances that may be possible. For example, we have students who participate in some of our academies courses, so we're still trying to work that out to see what we can and cannot do with Virtual Virginia. That is one of those questions that we have for the director at Virtual Virginia. And again, we had a meeting today, and I have another meeting scheduled, I believe, on Thursday to answer
Because
some of
I
those
know in
questions.
the past that they have. Am I wrong? In
So
the past,
what you're
we
thinking
can.
about is the
It's
Virginia Beach
full-time.
Digital Campus,
Right.
and where we have students who take some online classes for courses they can't fit into their schedule,
Right.
but they're with us full-time as face-to-face students.
Right.
So that will continue. We will continue to offer that, separate from Virtual Virginia. Virtual Virginia is an entirely virtual program for the students who choose to be in that.
Okay. So, like, say, my thought was, there may be, let's say there's 6 students at Cox who want to take 50-year French and 5 students at First Colonial who want to take 50-year French. It's really not enough to make a whole class, but you could do it virtually.
Well, so the way we've done that in the past is through distance learning.
Okay.
And so distance learning will continue to be an option. And that may be an example. Remember what we were asked about concurrent instruction? Would it be never happen? That might be an example where it might need to happen. So,
Okay.
but I mean, concurrent instruction is essentially distance learning. So we'll look at each of those types of situations on a case-by-case basis.
Yeah, because if there's one thing this has taught us is that we can utilize, virtual learning in other ways in the future. And so I don't think it's ever going to go away permanently, but I think it's here to stay in some form.
I agree.
And my other question is, in Virtual Virginia, is it a finite amount of students, or how? Am I wrong in that they had a cutoff in the past?
In the past they have, but we have not been told that there is a cutoff. So as a matter of fact, that we've gotten just the opposite from the director, that there is not a cutoff. Of course, we don't anticipate all 60 some odd thousand of our students attending.
I'm sorry, Dr. Rogers, could you
Yes.
raise the mic so the Zoom folks can
Sure.
hear?
So we have not been given a cutoff number.
Okay. Well, that's good to know. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Mrs. Weems, you're in the queue, yes? And then Mrs. Manning?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I had some questions, and I guess I just wanted to make sure that we clarify that Virtual Virginia is not Virginia Beach Public School teachers. They are
Correct.
completely different teachers.
Yes, ma'am.
So we're not using our own teachers.
No,
It's
ma'am.
not, okay. It's not distance learning. It's a whole program, I guess, by the Department of Ed, by the Virginia Department of Ed.
Correct.
Okay, so if you're gonna want to do Virtual Virginia, you sign up for it, we pay for it, you're one of our students, but you're being taught completely separate.
Correct.
But you can then come back and play a sport at your home school that is assigned according to where you live, I'm assuming, like we always do.
You're talking to
Okay.
me. Yes, ma'am.
So just wanted to clarify that up for folks that are watching, that you can't
And-
pick and choose which classes, like you said, that is just a complete, and we're not using our teachers.
Correct.
Correct.
And there's some latitude within the Virtual Virginia program to choose electives and that sort of thing.
Right,
But
yeah.
it is not Virginia Beach City Public School teachers or classes. It is a separate program, a separate virtual school that you are participating in with students from across the state. You enroll in Virginia Beach City Public Schools to have the opportunity to participate in that program, and that is the virtual option we're going to provide. That is when we do a survey, which is, as you heard, is coming shortly, we will have a landing page for people to go to read all of that and then be directed to Virtual Virginia to learn more so that they are well informed before they make that determination. Because those numbers will help us make our decisions about how and what we're going to need to do in order to have students back 5 days a week in person next year.
Correct, and we will
Okay.
also have frequently asked questions, very much like what you've asked.
Okay, right. And like, for instance, if I'm in an academy and I want to stay in an academy, I shouldn't choose Virtual Virginia because they're not going to have my academy classes.
That's
That's an example.
That's an example.
Okay.
There are classes that Virtual Virginia will not offer,
Correct.
and that would include our academy classes. That will include some electives. Virtual Virginia offers the required courses for graduation in the state. They offer some AP courses, and all of that's available online. You can look and see what they offer. But they might not offer, Mrs. Anderson, for example, French 5. I don't take that as gospel. I don't know if that's true, but to
They
your
do through 4,
earlier-
and then they have AP.
earlier example. So, but folks can go online and look and see what they offer, and then make those decisions about what they want to take or not take.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, so just a clarification, so that parents, when students do your homework, and, look at both of them, before you make a decision, and you have plenty of time. Okay, but we are, and I just spoke to Ms. Lewis Strand out there briefly, but we are, and I saw it in the slide, I think, really trying to endorse face-to-face learning for our
Earliest learners.
for our K,
Yes.
yeah, for
K
our
through 2.
young learners.
Yes, ma'am.
And so I just want to, it's so important, and I know because I've been tutoring, and guess who I'm tutoring all the time, who people call me to tutor, it's first graders,
Yes, ma'am.
because of the reading and being virtual and all that stuff. So I can't emphasize that enough, and I'm so glad we're emphasizing face-to-face for those early, younger learners. Okay, now, so by May 11th, I just want to clarify the date. So by May 11th is the deadline, or you're going to announce what, Dr. Robertson? What's May 11th? Is when we're going to have the whole plan, or?
Yeah, so May 11th, we'll have a recommended reopening plan for next year. We'll have a primary plan of this is where we're going to be going, and then we'll have a backup plan that kind of is, okay, so things emerged that prevented the primary plan, so here's our backup plan that'll include enough information so you guys can give us your feedback. Community can have an idea of what they're going to see next year, and we can begin planning as a staff to implement the schedules that we have.
Okay, so great. So that is 2 months earlier than maybe what some folks had thought previously,
Correct.
because they were, you had mentioned July. That is-
And if I may, just to say, that would include the input from the parent survey.
Yes, the parent survey results will be in and tallied and part of the May 11th presentation.
Right, okay. So, Dr. Robertson and Dr. Spence and Dr. Everybody, just thank you, thank you, thank you. This is exactly what I was looking for. A plan by way earlier than July, a plan to get our kids back in the school, and the virtual option through Virtual Virginia. And I just thank you. I know y'all did so much work before spring break so that you can bring this to us. And I know and I'm sure all of us just really, really appreciate all the work and the dedication that y'all have done. And I know we've made a lot of people happy tonight. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Mrs. Manning.
Thank you. I have 2 questions. Well, first a comment. Thank you for being committed to eliminating concurrent instruction as much as possible. I appreciate that, and I'm sure our teachers do as well. I support utilizing Virtual Virginia, but I am concerned regarding not only space, but also making sure that they have enough courses to be offered to our kids, to our students. Virtual Virginia does fill up. I know it does as a parent. My son has participated in Virtual Virginia. And so their classes do fill up. And sometimes, I mean, you're on a wait list and you're not guaranteed to get in. And so I have some, and that was even before COVID as well. So I hope that Virtual Virginia can give us, some information. Hopefully they're expanding their programs. I'm guessing they are. But if we can get some information from them that they will be prepared for our students. And, I guess that we'll have some more information once we do a parent survey. But can you address that concern, Dr. Rogers?
Yes, ma'am, I certainly can. We had a great meeting with Ryan Lott, who is the executive director of Virtual Virginia, on the Friday prior to our leaving for spring break, and that was one of the questions that we asked, because in previous years, before COVID, Virtual Virginia did have limitations due to space. In August of 2020, they expanded the opportunity for Virtual Virginia to include additional students in grades K through 12. So the short version is that we have not been given a limitation on the number of seats that we can provide our students in Virginia Beach City Public Schools. And they're actually looking forward to us continuing the conversation about having our students participate in the virtual program this coming school year.
Okay. I do know that in the first term of this year, there were limitations. There were some classes that were maxed out. So if you can just clarify that with them, that would be great. And then my second question, I saw in Dr. Robertson's presentation, some ideas that we could still be keeping the 4x4 program. And, while I see some positives in the 4x4 program, I also see some negatives, and it's something that many people in our community feel very passionate about. So I just want to make sure that if this is something that you're planning on, that it's something that we are making sure we're going to have a conversation with the public about, and get input, and have the board be able to provide input on that as well.
Was that a question?
Well, I mean, can you tell me is that the plan? I mean, are you planning on a 4x4? It seemed to be in a couple of your options. And if you are planning a 4x4, are we going to have a broader conversation about it?
What we're planning on is there are some courses that lend themselves quite well to a 4x4. And depending on some of the mitigations we might be facing, as I said, the principals were pretty unanimous that at the secondary level, should we be in a similar situation that we're in right now, they preferred the 4x4 because of, again, less classes for each student to focus on, less students per teacher. We also learned some lessons that there were certain certain courses that didn't lend themselves well to the 4x4, so we would not try to pound that square peg into a round hole again. We would have 4x4 classes and some AB classes. We're trying to take the best lessons learned from both the AB schedule and the 4x4 schedule to create a schedule that's going to best meet the student needs next year. And I can't tell you what that will look like exactly yet, because we don't have all the information that we need.
Yeah, and I agree with you regarding the 4x4 versus the AB. It can work better for some classes than others. My point is that I just feel like that if we are going to be making a longer term decision to change the way we operate our classes, that should be a public conversation is my point. And I'm, not considering the fact that we could have limitations this fall, but just longer term is what I'm referring to.
And if I may interject, and I think you'll recall as well that that's exactly why it's going to be a July retreat item of discussion, looking forward.
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, Miss Owens.
Hi, thank you. I know that this is kind of the initial sharing of the plan with us, and that there will be more details forthcoming. I have some concerns and things that I know I'll want to hear more about the upcoming discussions. Students who I know that they can participate in sports, but want to make sure that we're really clear with families about electives and academy programs or other programs, because what it certainly sounds like is you cannot do marching band if you choose virtual this time, although you may have been able to do that this year. You're not going to be in a culinary arts program. You're not going to be in, VOTEC, whatever else, and what that might mean for, like our Achievable Dream students who do have a higher population of students attending virtually, and what that would look like or not look like, or how that would play out also for Old Donation, who probably doesn't have as high a population attending virtually, but making sure that it's understood that you will lose participation in any of those programs. Also, if we could hear more, not necessarily tonight unless you guys know, about what the backup plan will look like for parents and students when quarantining, now that we won't be doing the simultaneous teaching, which I was never a fan of, but at least with that, if somebody had to quarantine from that class, they're still with that teacher, they're going home and they're having that continuation. Now we're going to be in a different place with that, and also how we're going to be preparing for parents who get uncomfortable with the situation midway through. I think we've seen kind of, as we've progressed this time, where we had people who were in person and then they weren't sure that they liked it, or they wanted to switch back and forth, that's really not going to be an option on the table with, using this virtual Virginia option. And so I definitely think it's something that we'll want to talk more about, given lots of families weren't comfortable enough to have their kids face to face with the provisions that we have currently with hybrid. And so knowing that next year very well may not have any hybrid, it's going to be, you're either comfortable with your children completely in the school full time with everybody there, however that's going to look, or you're going to be in this other program, and if transmission rates start to go up, it's not going to be as easy to say, okay, I don't feel comfortable with this for my family, I'm going to pull back to virtual, and just kind of how that will look when we have those situations, because I anticipate we'll have those situations.
Yeah, I don't think, we'll bring those recommendations forward. We don't have a lot of answers, but I will signal now, I don't think there will be an opportunity to pull back from one or the other. It will be, you're gonna make a decision, and that's where we're gonna go, because that's how we're gonna build our program, and we're not building a separate virtual program like we did this year, because of all of the challenges associated with both the management of that, the staffing of that, and the concurrent instruction that's required to accomplish that. So I'll just signal that now. I don't think that's going to work, and from a pure management perspective. So we're going to provide a virtual option. If that's where you want to go, that's where you're going for the year. We're going to have a face-to-face option with all the mitigations that are necessary to be in place in order to be safe. Whatever that looks like at that time, that's the kind of unknown for us that we can't predict. But our plan will be plan for the worst case scenario, hope for the best case scenario, and leverage the time that we have to plan for that to accomplish our goal.
Okay for Namastones?
Yeah, I'm good
We
with that. I know it's going to be a
we can
continued.
circle back around. Okay. Mrs. Anderson?
So back to my original question was, can they do virtual Virginia, maybe just their core classes, and piggybacking off of what Ms. Owens was saying is, how do they do virtual Virginia and say, you said they could participate in sports, but they may not be able to do band or any of the other electives, orchestra, chorus.
So those are the specific scenarios that Dr. Spence was just sharing, that we'd have to look at it a case-by-case basis and determine what's the best course of action for those particular students that have those unique circumstances, that we will do our very best to try to meet their needs, but recognizing all things considered, we can't duplicate the brick and mortar setting in its exact
Right.
place in the virtual setting, and that honestly, our students will have to understand that Virtual Virginia does not offer everything that we can offer them in a face-to-face setting.
Okay, so, because what I was looking at and hoping for was that they might be able to do their core classes and then go to the brick and mortar school for band, chorus.
We will
Electives.
We will talk, but you have to understand that Virtual Virginia is not asynchronous. It is a synchronous virtual school that you are
Okay.
in when you are in, and you have a schedule, and you show up on that schedule every day. And so it isn't as easy as just, you're flexible to go to the school for a class whenever you want and then go, take your virtual classes when you want.
Okay.
So that's not as simple as it sounds. And when you're a virtual Virginia student, you are full-time enrolled as a virtual Virginia student. So you are taking a full course load in the virtual program.
Okay.
And so having space to do something else at the school is something we'll have to work with individual families and students on to see if there's anything we can accommodate. But folks who want a virtual program next year should not expect to have all things for all people in that program, because it isn't going to happen. I think that's just a fair assessment, and people need to be aware of that. Because the only other way to do it is to do it the way we did it this year, which is a lot of concurrent instruction, a lot of staffing challenges, and a lot of blending of teachers who are teaching virtually and face-to-face. And that is a difficult thing to manage, and it is a difficult thing to staff.
Okay, well, I think that clarifies a lot for me, and I hope it clarifies for those people that are watching or who may watch this video later, because I don't want any misinterpretation on this, or anybody saying, oh, I don't want them thinking, okay, well, I can just do my core classes and then I can go to the brick and mortar school. So we need to clarify that up front so that
As-
nobody feels like they're being misled.
And as we've said, when we get a survey out, there'll be a landing page that answers a lot of those questions so that people are very clear about what they're signing up for when they're telling us their interest.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mrs. Franklin?
Just kind of piggybacking on that, I just had a question because I thought that I heard earlier that maybe it would entice some homeschoolers, by being able to do the virtual and then still be able to participate in activities. So I guess I'm confused. Where was that said? Did I misunderstand that? And if so, is that a different program than what we're discussing right now?
No,
then?
that's the same program. So
Oh.
let's say you right now are being homeschooled. And your family would be happy to have you in a virtual, they don't want you in a public school, but they would be more than happy to have you in a virtual program that's run by the public schools. And so, and it takes the onus off of them having to do the curriculum every day and the teaching every day. They have a teacher, they go online, it happens every day. Many, many homeschool families already do this. They already access a virtual curriculum. But in many cases, they pay for it. In fact, a lot of cases they pay for it, and they don't have access to other things the school division has to offer. So in that scenario, that family might be perfectly happy with what we are. Obviously, everybody has the opportunity to make that decision, but they might decide, that's pretty good. I like what Virtual Virginia has to offer. I'm going to enroll as a student in Virginia Beach. My child is a student in Virginia Beach City Public Schools. They are then going to be a virtual Virginia student, and they will also be a Virginia Beach City Public School student. Therefore, they'll have access to extracurriculars and other activities that all of our students have access to.
But I think,
Oh,
if I
but
may,
not-
you're asking why is it more definitive for the sports than it is for band at the moment?
Yes, yeah, that's what.
Because band is curricular. Band is a class.
Okay.
That's really the difference. So
Okay, 'cause
it's
when is it
when
after
we're
school and
saying all
during school?
things are not available to all the
Okay,
people,
okay.
we're talking about classes. We're talking about things like academy classes. So academy classes, just as another example, are very specialized classes in most of our academies, right? So you go to the academy to take an academy English class. You don't go to the regular English class, you go to the academy English class. You don't go to a regular science class, you go to the academy science class. But like my daughter's taking science, and it's forensic science because it's the LSA, right? So that is a very specialized class. Virtual Virginia is not going to offer that class. The only way for us to offer that class virtually would be for that teacher to teach concurrently. And you've heard expressed, and I've expressed, that generally we don't want to do that. Now, as we evolve and we figure this out, if people start to say, well, I'd rather have those kids in the academy and I'm willing to teach concurrently, we can have those individual conversations. But right now, we're saying our virtual plan is Virtual Virginia. You're a full-time enrolled Virtual Virginia student if you choose that virtual option. If there are opportunities to work with students on different scenarios, because we'll still have the Virginia Beach Digital Campus. So what that is now is typically what it is a student who, like a good case example is a kid who can't fit PE into their schedule because they're taking so many other classes, can take PE virtually through the Virginia Beach Digital Campus. And there are other courses, like there's, accelerated advanced courses that a kid might want to add to their full schedule. And so I also want to take, and they'll take it on the Virginia Beach Digital Campus. So there could be opportunities for students who want to primarily be virtual but come into the building for a couple classes to then fill in the remainder of their schedule virtually with Virginia Beach Digital Campus. But again, it's going to come down to their scheduling, and that's going to be a case-by-case conversation. Does that make sense? Okay.
Anyone else right now? All right then, that covers this topic for this evening, and we look forward to seeing you all in another few weeks. Thank you again very much.
Are we adjourned?
So we have adjourned our workshop, and Mrs. Melnick, would you now read the motion to go into closed session?
I make the following motion that the school board recess into a closed meeting pursuant to the exemptions from open meetings allowed by section 2.2-3711, part A, paragraphs 1, 7, and 8 of the Code of Virginia, 1950, as amended for the following reasons. 1. Personnel matters. Discussion, consideration, or interviews of prospective candidates for employment, assignment, appointment, promotion, performance, demotion, salaries, disciplining, or resignation of specific public officers, appointees, or employees pursuant to Section 2.2-3711A1, namely to discuss several pending employee grievance matters. 2. Consultation with legal counsel and briefings by staff members or consultants pertaining to actual or probable litigation where such consultation or briefing in open meeting would adversely affect the negotiating or litigating posture of the public pursuant to Section 2.2-3711A 7 and 8, namely to discuss A. Status of pending complaints and litigation matters, B. Request to resolve potential litigation prior to filing suit, C. Discussion of implications for school board of recent federal court decision, and D. Discussion with legal counsel regarding First Amendment applications to public speakers.
Okay, is there a second? Mrs. Riggs. Okay, all in favor, please display a raised hand. Where's?
I guess we have to wait on the vote.
Okay, the vote's temporarily on hold. She's halfway down.
Yep.
Okay.
And we still have to come off of, we're still on.
Oh, okay. That's right, we have to be on for this part.
I'm just waiting to make sure myself. See, we're still on.
All right, can I ask again a second on the motion to go into closed? Who was, it wasn't Mrs. Riggs?
It was
Okay.
Mrs. Riggs.
All in favor, please display a raised hand.
Okay, Madam Chair, we have a unanimous vote.
Okay, thank you.
All right, good evening, school board members.